Programming in Flash with Actionscript often involves changing the property value of an object. And the general form for that is the instance name of the object dot whatever the property is we want to change equals some new value. And I have here several different examples. So we might have a push button where we want to change the x-coordinate, or where the left edge of that push button is in reference to the left edge of my stage. I can set it to 100, and that would move that button 100 pixels from the left of the stage. The second line is I have a text box named course_txt. I want to change the text, and here I'm going to set it to some literal string, CIS220DC Advanced Flash. Third example is we can change the frame rate of the stage. Notice that the stage is a keyword. It's in blue, equals, I'm going to set it to 12 frames per second. The fourth line is setting the border of a text box named lastname_txt to false. It's going to turn that border off. Let's take a look at an example of doing this in an application. So I've created a text box that is named campus_txt. It's a dynamic text box. I want it dynamic because I'm going to change the text property through code. If I made it static, I couldn't change the text. And if I made it input, I could change the text, but it's also going to allow the user to enter values into that text box. Dynamic, they cannot enter any values in, but we can change it through programming. There's a button here for embed, and anytime you use a dynamic text box or an input text box, you always want to embed your fonts. I'm going to not do it first so you can see the result and how that can really kind of mess up your application, and then we'll come back and set that. And then I have a button. Oh, by the way, I named this text box campus_txt. I have a button that's named ASU_BTN. Let's look at the actions layer. I've already pre-coded this. We'll bring up our actions. And I have an event listener for that button, ASU_BTN.addEventListener. And we're going to use the click event of the mouse event class. And my function is called setASU. And then here's my function declaration. And I'm doing three things here. I'm going to set the text property of the campus text box, campus_txt, to Arizona State. Notice that is a literal string. It's in quotes. That way the compiler ignores that. The compiler would not understand otherwise what Arizona State is. So by putting in quotes, the compiler will ignore it and treat it as a literal string. And that's going to be the value that is displayed in the text. It's a string value. Then I'm going to change the background color. And I'm using a hexadecimal value here of 990033. The OX simply says it's a hexadecimal value. And with this, we can represent approximately 16.7 million different colors, 24-bit color system. This happens to be a maroon color. In fact, let's just add a comment there of maroon. And the next one, I'm going to set the text color to gold, FFB310. So let me go ahead and run this. And you'll notice I get a comment here in the output that says font should be embedded for any text that may be edited at runtime other than text with the use device font setting. So I want to go back in and set that embedded font for that text box. We'll see what happens when I click the button. So I get sort of Arizona State, and that's the result of having not embedded the fonts. It tends to drop out letters. But I did get my maroon and my gold. So I'm going to come back to my application. I'm going to select the text box and click on Embed. And what I prefer to embed is the uppercase, lowercase, numerals, and punctuation. If you check all, it's going to give you the characters for Japanese, Korean, Chinese, Latin, Cyrillic characters, Arabic, Hebrew, Greek, and so forth. That would just add a lot of extra information to our application that's not needed in this case. So generally I choose uppercase, lowercase, numerals, and punctuation. You can choose the font you're using here, and so you can set other fonts besides just the chosen text box. and then they should appear here. And you have to set this for every style that you're going to use. So if I use an italic style, I need to also embed those fonts. Click OK. And now I'm going to test my application again. And I click the button, and now I actually get the word Arizona State.